Why did so many ancient temples, from Angkor Wat to the Giza Plateau, align not with the sky as it is now, but with how it appeared around 10,500 BCE? It's as if that date, 10,500 BCE, marks something, a memory, a scar in the sky. And science is catching up. Not myth, not fantasy, astrophysics, geology, archaeology. The Holocene Impact Working Group, a coalition of scientists, believes Earth experienced multiple major impacts during the last ice age, including airbursts and comet fragments, triggering climate shifts, tsunamis, and societal resets. These aren't tinfoil hat theories. These are published papers, peer-reviewed, data-backed. So when ancient texts warn of fire from heaven, sky serpents, or gods who punished with flame, we must ask, were they really describing gods? Or just trying to explain the unexplainable? In the heart of the Central American jungle, the Maya didn't just build cities. They carved a cosmic calendar into stone. At places like Chichen Itza and Tikal, their pyramids were aligned with celestial events, particularly the movements of Venus and the Sun. To them, astronomy wasn't science, it was survival. Their priests, known as Akin, studied the stars to predict eclipses, seasons, and omens of doom. The Popol Vuh, their sacred book, didn't just chronicle gods and myths. It told of previous worlds destroyed by skyfire, celestial rage, and divine storms. Their belief system was clear. When the heavens shifted, so did the fate of humankind. According to the Dresden Codex, a surviving Mayan text, solar eclipses and Venus cycles were directly tied to warfare and sacrifice. They weren't just watching the sky, they were terrified of it. But they weren't alone. Halfway around the world, in ancient China, similar obsessions played out. The earliest Chinese astronomical records date back to the Shang dynasty, 1600 to 146 BCE, where guest stars, now known as supernovae, were meticulously documented. In 1054 CE, a supernova explosion so bright it was visible during the day was recorded by Chinese, Japanese, and Arab astronomers. But earlier still, Chinese records speak of dragons in the sky and fire from the heavens. In 85 CE, the Book of the Later Han describes a celestial event interpreted as a red star that exploded, causing floods and famine, possibly a supernova in the Centaurus constellation. These weren't just superstitions. China had one of the longest continuous astrological traditions in the world. The dragon, far from being mythological fluff, was a metaphorical stand-in for comets, meteors, and strange atmospheric phenomena. Each event was cataloged not with awe, but with fear. It meant dynasties would fall, crops would fail. The heavens were speaking, and their voice was rarely kind. And then we turn our gaze even farther back in time, to a place long predating written language. And that brings us to the Great Deluge. Nearly every culture has a flood myth. In Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh speaks of Utnapishtim, a man who survives a great flood sent by the gods, a story older than the Bible. In the Hebrew tradition, Noah builds an ark after being warned by God of an oncoming flood meant to cleanse the earth. In India's Satapatha Brahmana, Manu is rescued by a talking fish, Matsya, an incarnation of Vishnu, who warns him of a coming deluge. In Greece, Deucalion and Pyrrha survive a flood sent by Zeus by building a chest. In South America, the Inca myth speaks of a time when the gods sent water to wipe out a previous race of giants. Aboriginal Australians speak of the sea rising to swallow the land, while the Cree and Ojibwe tell of a canoe rescuing survivors from a world drowned. All these myths, different lands, different tongues, center around the same period, roughly 10,800 to 9,600 BCE. That's the Younger Dryas again. Meltwater pulse. 1b. A real, scientifically documented rapid rise in sea levels up to 30 feet within centuries. The timing isn't vague. It's carved in stone, encoded in calendars, and preserved through oral traditions around the world. These weren't just stories. They were memories. Memories of something that came from the sky, struck the earth, and drowned civilizations. This is where things get uncomfortable for mainstream archaeology, because while traditional narratives propose a slow, linear climb from primitive hunter-gatherers to advanced civilizations, the flood myths, and the evidence behind them, suggest the opposite, that there was once an advanced culture, global in scale, that was nearly wiped out by a cataclysm, that the survivors, not the originators, were the builders of what we now think of as ancient monuments. Take the mysterious underwater ruins off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan. Submerged under 100 feet of ocean, this stepped stone structure is estimated to be over 10,000 years old, far older than any known Japanese civilization. Off the coast of Cuba, sonar scans in 2001 revealed massive stone structures deep underwater, structures with symmetrical layouts and possible pyramid-like shapes. Even off the western coast of India, in the Gulf of Cambay, researchers found a submerged city with streets, walls, and artifacts dated to around 9,500 BCE. These places shouldn't exist, not by conventional timelines. Now, look at Egypt. The Sphinx, long thought to be carved around 2,500 BCE, shows evidence of water erosion, deep vertical fissures inconsistent with wind-blown desert sand. Egyptologists dismissed the theory for decades, until geologists pointed out that such erosion patterns could only be formed by sustained rainfall, the kind Egypt hasn't seen since 7000 BCE or earlier. That would place the Sphinx, and possibly the pyramids, in a completely different epoch, before the Sahara was even a desert. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, has championed this idea, sparking controversy and backlash. But if he's right, it means the timeline of civilization is wrong by thousands of years. It also means ancient people didn't just build monuments, they inherited them. Why does this matter? Because across the globe, megalithic sites, the ones nobody can explain, seem aligned to the sky, not as it is today, but as it was 12,000 years ago. Teotihuacan in Mexico, the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, Angkor Wat in Cambodia. They're all oriented to constellations like Orion, Sirius, and the Pleiades as they appeared millennia ago. Why would these cultures, separated by oceans, build such precise structures to match a sky they couldn't even see? Unless they were mimicking something, or remembering it. Even Plato's story of Atlantis, often dismissed as allegory, dates the civilization's fall to 9,600 BCE. A volcanic island empire wiped out in a single day and night of catastrophe. Plato claimed he got the story from Solon, who got it from Egyptian priests. Sound familiar? Meanwhile, in the skies, science is catching up. In 2013, researchers proposed that fragments of a large comet, possibly the Taurid complex, had caused airburst events throughout history. The Tunguska explosion in 1908 flattened 800 square miles of forest in Siberia, yet left no impact crater. A similar explosion over Chelyabinsk in 2013 injured over 1,000 people. These are warnings, and they're increasing. NASA currently tracks over 30,000 near-Earth objects, NEOs, and every year that number grows. Yet we're woefully underprepared. In 774 CE, tree rings show a massive solar storm, 20 times stronger than anything we've seen in the modern age. If it hit today, it would knock out satellites, grids, and communications globally. In 1859, the Carrington event, another massive solar flare, caused telegraph systems to burst into flames. These aren't just risks, they're certainties, on long enough timelines. Ancient people weren't stupid. They were observant, and they were afraid, not of darkness, but of light. Blinding, celestial light, fire from the heavens. The stars of heaven fell unto the earth, says the Bible in Revelation 6,113. It wasn't poetic. It might have been eyewitness testimony. And now, with every passing year, we uncover more. Ice core anomalies, platinum spikes, mass extinction layers, legends that match asteroid behavior. The more we dig, the more it seems that the sky really did fall. Once, or maybe more than once. And perhaps that's why ancient civilizations feared the sky. not because they didn't understand it, but because they remembered it. So what does this all mean for us? Today, we look at the sky with curiosity, wonder, even arrogance. We name constellations, launch satellites, send probes past Jupiter, and fantasize about colonizing Mars. But ancient people didn't just observe the heavens. They built their entire lives around them. Their calendars, their agriculture, their monuments, even their myths were rooted in what happened above, and more importantly, they feared it. Because they knew, consciously or not, that the sky was not stable, it was not safe, it was not kind. Fast forward to modern science. In recent decades, cosmologists have proposed that Earth's passage through the Milky Way's spiral arms exposes us to increased cometary activity from the Oort cloud, a spherical shell of icy debris encircling the solar system. Some astronomers believe we pass through these comet-heavy regions roughly every 26 million years, and that mass extinctions on Earth correlate with these periods. It's called the Nemesis hypothesis, the idea that a distant, dim companion star to our Sun might be perturbing comets in cyclical waves, sending them toward Earth. Sound like science fiction? Maybe, but it's being seriously investigated. Even without a Nemesis star, the threat is real. In June 2002, an asteroid the size of a football field passed within 75,000 miles of Earth. 1/3 the distance to the Moon. We only saw it 3 days later. And remember that repeating signal from 2019, FRB 18916, JA158 +65, a powerful radio transmission pulsing from a galaxy 500 million light-years away? It followed a strict 16-day pattern. Then it stopped. Some scientists suggested it was a magnetar. Others weren't so sure, because maybe we're not alone in fearing the sky. Maybe someone, or something, out there is watching it too. The ancients built their temples to survive time. The pyramids, the ziggurats, the stone rings. They weren't just tombs or places of worship. They were memory devices, designed to outlast floods, fires, and forgetfulness. Designed to warn. At Teotihuacan, the Pyramid of the Sun is aligned with the Pleiades, a cluster of stars tied to destruction myths around the globe. In Greek mythology, the Pleiades were the daughters of Atlas, transformed into stars after being hunted by Orion. In Australian Aboriginal lore, they were 7 sisters chased by a celestial hunter. In Japanese Shinto belief, they were linked to creation stories. Over and over, the same stars, the same fear, and the same silence. Because eventually, the stories fade, the priests die, the carvings erode, and the warnings become bedtime tales. Until it happens again. That's the terrifying truth. We don't remember because we've never seen it, but our ancestors did, and they tried in every language, every stone, every star chart to pass it on. But we dismissed them. We called it myth, allegory, nonsense. And now? We've built our civilization on a fragile web of technology. Cities glowing with electric light, skies blocked by satellites and drones, eyes focused downward on screens while the heavens shift quietly above. We are the distracted generation, the disconnected, the arrogant. And in doing so, we've forgotten the simplest truth: the sky always wins. When it moves, we fall. When it flares, we burn. When it drops something, we vanish. History doesn't repeat, it returns. And the ancients, in their fear, may have known something we no longer do. So the next time you see a shooting star, ask yourself, is it beautiful or is it a warning? Because one day, something may appear in the night, a red glow on the horizon, a serpent streaking across the heavens, a second sun. And by then, it won't matter if we believe the myths, because the sky won't care. It will simply do what it has always done: burn.